2026 will mark 30 years since Duke Nukem 3D released. I would love to say that the series has a bright future and that milestone will be celebrated in some form, but that would be an insanely optimistic position to take. It's been 14 years since the release of Duke Nukem Forever, it's been 9 years since the release of Duke Nukem 3D Anniversary Edition, and it's been 7 years since Duke Nukem awkwardly was used as a piece of bait to get people to buy Bulletstorm Full Clip Edition. It's been a long time since Duke Nukem as a franchise did anything new or interesting. Yes, I am aware that it got a re-release on Evercade, but that's niche and only serves to highlight how little's actually going on with the franchise. I'm also aware that a Netflix TV series may or may not be in the pipeline, but I'll circle back to that later. Console generations have come and gone, the legend of Duke Nukem as a series has faded from relevancy. The franchise has never really escaped the shadow of Duke Nukem Forever, a game so infamous within the video game sphere that it sank the entire franchise and turned Duke Nukem into the subject of ridicule and laughter. But that wasn't always the case. Up to the mid-1990s, Duke Nukem existed as a side-scrolling platformer. It was kinda well liked by those who played it, and it had a special place in gamers' hearts. Then Duke Nukem 3D came along and propelled the series to the forefront of the first-person shooters genre. It was good, crude fun for the time, and its interactivity, fun combat, and excellent level design pushed it ahead of its competitors and made the game a staple. Duke Nukem saw ports to other consoles, spin-off games, and feverish speculation about what Duke Nukem Forever, announced for a 1998 release date, would bring. Then it all started to go wrong. Duke Nukem Forever went through a lot of development hell, and that uncertainty left the franchise hanging in the air. As the millennium came and went, Duke Nukem Forever slowly became an inside joke for many gamers. Its trailers teased what gamers would never play, and by the mid-2000s it felt like the franchise had hit a wall. Even when the money ran out and 3D Realms turned off the life support, the corpse of Duke Nukem Forever was still being mangled and grafted together by parties who wanted to see a return on their investment. The version of Duke Nukem Forever gamers got their hands on in 2011 was the reanimated corpse of that cancelled game, with a multiplayer mode slapped in at the last minute and console versions hastily thrown together to try and expand the game's sales potential. To have the game cancelled and then re-announced gave hope to the idea that the game would somehow be worth the wait. This dream died very quickly. Duke Nukem Forever launched and immediately was roasted from all angles. Critics derided it, gamers mocked it, fans of Duke Nukem were left with a lingering sense of what could have been, while casual audiences ripped the game to shreds and buried the franchise wholesale. So here we are 14 years later. The only notable release in that time was a half-hearted 20th anniversary collection which felt like an attempt to get some form of Duke Nukem onto modern platforms, but really we all know it was more cashing in on a franchise that Gearbox didn't really have any appetite to do anything with. There have been re-releases of some of the console Duke Nukem games onto various platforms, but no new ground has been broken. The most exciting thing to happen in recent years on the gaming side was the emergence of the 2001 Duke Nukem Forever build. Fans have been dedicating their time and effort to recrafting this experience to try and see what we could have got back in the day, and you should definitely check that out if you haven't already. Duke Nukem as a franchise has faded from pop culture and is now remembered more as a nostalgic meme than anything else. This is a real shame when you consider there's been a huge resurgence in various FPS shooters over the last decade. Various franchises like Wolfenstein, Shadow Warrior and Doom have reinvented themselves for a whole new generation of gamers. That doesn't include the many games that have popped up over the last few years inspired by these titles. There's arguably never been a better time for a Duke Nukem revival, yet not even a crumb or rumours suggest that's on the table. Duke Nukem as a franchise, at least in its gaming sense, is buried under the impact crater from Duke Nukem Forever. And there it seems destined to remain, or at least that's how it seemed until recently. The recent news regarding Adi Shankar acquiring the TV rights to Duke Nukem has stirred a wider discussion about the franchise. His work on the Devil May Cry and Castlevania TV series has impressed and disappointed in equal measure. Some fans applaud his takes on those franchises, bringing them to a much wider audience, while hardcore gamers decry his wildly unfaithful takes on their beloved franchises. It's a very odd development as an animated Duke Nukem TV series feels like a complete Hail Mary, and it kind of signals that Gearbox really doesn't know what they want to do with the franchise. I don't have much of an opinion on it, but I feel that it's so out there that it'll be different from the Duke Nukem hardcore fans probably want to see. Will I watch it? Probably, but I also watched that Tomb Raider animated series and I didn't really think much of that. But it does make you ask the question, why hasn't there been a new Duke Nukem game? The discussion around why Duke Nukem hasn't returned in any notable form is a very loaded one, and depending on where you go looking for the answer, you get a wide range of responses. I don't like talking politics on this channel, however it's a key component of the discussion around the state of Duke Nukem, and to ignore that discussion is to also not tackle the issue at the heart of it all. Depending on which side of the discussion you sit on, Duke Nukem's humour and characterisation either are too one-dimensional, too crass, or too outdated to exist in modern gaming, or Duke Nukem is being held down by the woke, the snowflakes who don't want games to be edgy or adult and are just here to spoil the fun. Both sides of this discussion to me are wide of the mark and overstuff a discussion that doesn't really need to be happening. Duke Nukem existed in the 1990s across multiple successful games. It doesn't exist in 2025 not because the people don't like crass humour, or because the character doesn't connect, or because the game industry is too sensitive. It's simply a case of Gearbox not wanting to do anything with the franchise outside of easy cash grabs. It's really that simple. To suggest that people don't like games that contain a lot of crass is to ignore the largest video game franchise of the last 30 years, Grand Theft Auto. That has so much crass humour, so much adult content, and at times is so controversial, yet its huge success speaks for itself. And it's not just GTA, popular franchises across gaming have adult content and themes baked into their DNA, and they continue to succeed. Sure, there are people who don't want that kind of thing in games, but how many cancel campaigns have you seen fall flat on their face over the years, from both sides of the discussion? To me, that entire discussion is kind of lazy in the context of Duke Nukem, as the answer's probably not even that deep. The issue isn't that Duke Nukem's adult aspects are taboo, it's that they need to be done well. Duke Nukem Forever was so sloppily written that it came off as repulsive and lazy at times, and aged before it even hit shelves. That's the problem when you stitch together a game from many smaller parts and boot it out the door just to make money. There was no refinement or attempt to make that game work, it was left in because it was already there. And the thing is, a lot of the dated humour doesn't add anything to the game. Was the Christian Bale joke funny? No, it just got in the way. Was the opening where Duke Nukem's getting head well done? No, because it drags on and takes way too long to let you actually play the game. Was the whole Olsen twins thing funny or cute? No, because they kept turning up and making you stand around waiting to actually do anything fun. It was all very aged and poorly thought out humour that interrupts the gameplay and forces the player to endure it. Compare that to Duke Nukem 3D where none of that happens. Duke Nukem's quips, one-liners and reactions do add to Duke Nukem 3D. In most shooters from around the mid-1990s, the protagonist grunted and groaned at best. Duke Nukem was reacting to what you were doing. When you shot a trap babe, he expressed remorse. When you visited the lap dancing club in Red Light District, he got excited. It added flavour to the game and helped it to feel more personal. What it didn't do was stop the game dead and force you to watch weak cutscenes that feel like they were written by a chatbot. When Duke interacts with the strippers in Duke Nukem 3D, it's a brief interaction. It doesn't trigger a 3-minute locked-in cutscene that the player can't escape from. To circle back though, the reason that Duke Nukem isn't being made now isn't because of Duke Nukem being problematic. If anything, that would probably be a huge selling point in the current climate of gaming. The reason that nothing is being made is because Duke Nukem Forever was that bad and that destructive that the franchise has not been able to escape its shadow, even 14 years later. The decision to rush that game out by 2K was a crippling one. The decision to piece the parts they had into a Frankenstein's monster of a title and then release console ports so bad that most people who played it got to experience the very worst of Duke Nukem Forever left a very bad taste in many people's mouths. To then follow that up with the 20th anniversary edition, which actively removed content, the expansion packs from Megaton, and offered up a very subpar experience, was a slap in the face to those fans who just wanted better from the franchise. The simple truth is there's no goodwill around the Duke Nukem franchise currently, both from casual gamers who can still smell the stink from Forever and hardcore fans who were served a very undercooked celebration. And all of this is directly tied to both Gearbox and 2K, who have handled the franchise so poorly since taking it under their wing. Personally speaking, I'd love to see Duke Nukem as a series return as a smaller scaled affair. The likes of 2019's Iron Fury and the recent success of Night Dive's modern remasters show there's an appetite for more retro-inspired shooters. The continued success of boomer shooters indicates that the genre has matured to the point where people will support games that release under that banner. I feel that a smaller scale Duke Nukem offering could very much fit in with that scene and appeal to players who just want to experience the very best of Duke Nukem. Not every game needs to be a AAA franchise. Duke Nukem doesn't need a budget of tens of millions of dollars to achieve what gamers already say is the best experience in the franchise. Something like Duke Nukem 3D or Duke Nukem Manhattan Project, there's plenty of directions that the franchise can go in. The problem again is that those options aren't profitable enough for a developer like Gearbox, who prefers AAA offerings with AAA returns. But here's the thing, if Gearbox don't want to do anything with the franchise, perhaps let someone else have a shot at it. The franchise is sat doing nothing, so what's there to lose? They're already letting someone make a TV series which may or may not be a success, so why not do the same in video game terms? With the 30th anniversary coming up in 2026, it feels a bit weird that the franchise has been allowed to wilt away. The truth is, Duke Nukem Forever was a lifetime ago in video game terms. It's time Gearbox did something with the franchise outside of reliving the classics for quick profit. Duke Nukem deserves better. Duke Nukem fans deserve better. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, then please check out my channel memberships or Patreon for access to exclusive videos and the ability to choose retro roulette games.